I have music in my life, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how shitty things are. I wake up in the morning and there's something really meaningful in my life, and it's always there for me. It's always there, no matter what is happening, and also how good or how bad I think I was. It's there for me, and I went so deep in my um in how much I explored it, that it really exists in me now. And I feel like that is a part of
Mm.
Why it is maybe talking about a sad generation, because when you don't have that thing that serves as purpose, but you have so many different things that you know little
Mm.
about, I feel like that maybe kind of takes out a little bit of this sense of direction in life.
What's going on? Welcome to the New Music Business. I'm your host, Ari Herstand, author of How to Make It in the New Music Business, the book, 3rd edition, out now, all formats, hardcover, ebook, audiobook. Go check it out. Today, my guest is Noga Erez.
I'm the vandalist, fuck your therapist. Friday night, but tuck it way before your images. I tell my mama I sold myself for a tiny fee.
She is an incredible artist from Israel. She just released a new album called The VANDALIST. Go check it out. It's incredible. I've been bumping this for a while. I've been a fan of Noga's for a long time, and this new record did not disappoint. It is incredible. It's her best work yet. And we talk a lot about the creation process, the songwriting process, where a lot of these songs come from, and how she put it out and all of that. If you're unfamiliar with Noga Erez, well, you got to familiarize yourself. Her famous fans include Billie Eilish and Hayley Williams and Dove Cameron and Sophie Tucker and Gal Gadot, Finneas. She collaborated on her song Nails with Missy Elliott. On this new record, some of the collaborators include Flying a Boss and Robbie Williams. And she had a song in the opening credits to last summer's Netflix action thriller Heart of Stone, her song Quiet, starring Gal Gadot. She's an incredible artist, and I had a really great time chatting with her, and we touched on a lot of topics. Yes, we talked about the record for a while and creating that, but we also talk about some of the themes on the record, how social media has affected society and of all generations, how putting out music has changed. This new record is her first record on a major label with Neon Gold and Atlantic Records, and she talks about that relationship and the challenges putting this record out with Atlantic after, if you haven't been following the music news, there has been a lot of chaos at Atlantic, and they have laid off a bunch of people, and there's been a ton of restructuring. And she kind of got caught up in all of that during this release process. And a lot of the chaos happened right when she was putting the record out. So that presented an interesting challenge. And you can hear about that. And we talk about that too. She also talks about what it means to be an Israeli artist right now with everything that is going on in the world and especially in the region. She talks about a lot of the hate that she's received and how she's dealt with that, and just what it all means and how she has experienced that personally, just being somebody who is born and raised in Israel. So stick around to the end where we dive into that, and she really reveals just kind of what that has been like for her, and her personal story. And a lot of people have their own personal stories, and I was so grateful that I got to hear hers with how this has affected her personally. You can find Noga Erez everywhere. Go listen to her music, check out the new record, get the record, find her on all the socials, all of that. You can find all of us that make the show happen at Ari's Take on all the socials. Visit aristake.com and get on the email list. That's where we'll send you the most up-to-date new information about the new music business. But right now, if you could just pause this and leave us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, give us a thumbs on YouTube, that really helps. All right, let's kick into the show. Noga Erez, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ari. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you? Did I just see, did you do a show last night? Did I see something on your Instagram stories that, how was that? That looked pretty wild.
Yeah, it was really cool. I did a show last night and the night before. So it
Okay.
was nice couple of nights, and yeah, it was down at the near the Dead Sea. So that's always a
Nice.
cool location to go
Cool.
to. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it your show? Was it a festival or
It
what was
was a
the event?
festival.
Hmm.
It was a festival, and yeah, I did the show there last year. The festival went on, and it was a day after I broke my foot.
Oh shit.
So the
Okay.
last time I did a show there, I sat down on like this little couch that they brought me the entire show.
That's
So
nice.
it was a better experience this time around.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. Right on. Cool. Well, congratulations on Vandalist. It's a great record. Very cool. It's I want to start off by all the songs on the record were created by real life human beings.
It's
Yuck.
true. Yuck.
No, I love that. I love that. The midpoint bump in the record. I've been bumping it for the last week. It is great. I do love it. But yeah. So well, then tell me, where did the Vandalist come from? Why did you come up with that? You created a new word.
I didn't realize it was a new word. English is not my first language, so
Right.
for me, and I think that in Hebrew, like, so the word vandalist doesn't come from Hebrew, but we do say vandalism or
Right.
vandalist. So that's how
Yeah.
we kind of use that. If you want to describe a person who's engaged in vandalism, you would say "U vandalist." He's a vandalist.
Sure.
And so yeah, we had the song, and then I went and checked, like, I don't know, the Wikipedia or the definition of what is vandalist, and I noticed that that word does not exist.
Yeah,
And I was like, fuck it. So
yeah.
let's call the album
Fuck
that.
it. Give it. I love it. So let's talk about some of your collaborators on this. Because I know it was a cheeky little midpoint thing about kind of that futuristic AI voice that was like, this is if you're listening to this after 2040. But there are a lot of people that have made that collaborate with you on the record, and I appreciated kind of seeing all that, especially like the horn players, because a lot of people will just use MIDI samples these days or just use like splice loops or whatever. But you brought in real live musicians and strings and horns, and
Mhm.
so talk about where kind of these collaborators came from, and just like why you felt it necessary to bring in collaborators like that for this.
I think that we found Ori Russo, who's my producer and partner
Hmm.
in life and in music. We found that the best sounding strings and the best sounding brass section is always the combination between the VSTs that we use, the instruments that we use from the software, together
Hmm.
with live instruments. And the thing is, I don't know why that is, but we we had we had the VSTs first as like the demo, and we have really good
Yeah,
ones. We're using
sure.
like the best plugins for string sounds and for brass sounds, etc. But we were like, okay, we were curious to see how it will sound live, and then that
Yeah,
didn't sound good. So it's kind of the combination that does it for us. Um,
yeah,
so it's not like a ideology more than it's really just an artistic choice and how we like
sure.
things to sound.
Hmm.
But yeah, all of the people who played on the record are people that we've collaborated with before. Uh, People who were on so we do these live versions of our studio recorded versions
Yeah.
that we like to call Against the Machine. That is when we get to meet many musicians and kind of check out different textures in music. And so the people who were recorded on the Vandalist are people that we worked with and love working with. And we knew that once they got in the room, it was not only just a good addition to the sound of things, but also they brought on some really cool creative ideas.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, I liked watching that. I caught the A plus with Ravid Plotnik and that session where you're in the room together. That's a lot of fun. I love the I mean, yeah, the combination of kind of the instruments created in the box versus, well, in collaboration with the real instruments and the real players. I think it's probably why the record is so dynamic and so big. And it just can give an extra little lift. Like, I love at the end of Please, when the real bass guitar kicks in over the final chorus, and that just like, there's obviously bass throughout the whole song, but when that comes in, it just like gives it that extra little lift. And then that's just like that's a song that's got a deep pocket and a nice groove. It was like a nice like Verdine White moment when that bass came in. It was like, oh, we're going like old school. We got some funk happening here. That's cool.
Exactly.
With the horns and like the 60s Motown drums happening. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Of course. So let's talk. I want to PC people. This is like the jam. It's been my jam now for a little while. It's fun. So I'm curious, like, where did this come from? How did you kind of come up with this song? And I want to I'm curious about some of the reference in there too, but yeah, just give me the story behind the song.
Well, I guess what kind of sparked, that very wild, almost full of rage, chorus, because we are saying I'm pissing on your PC and that kind of stuff, which is way more harsh than what we would like to say about the PC culture and cancel culture and woke culture. I mean, we like to be a bit more subtle and nuanced when we talk about, things like that. But that was like a moment in time, and it captured a reaction of Ori and mine to an interview that we saw with a singer who the entire interview was asked questions, and everything she answered was the most correct way to answer. And at the end, she said nothing at all. And we had a really interesting discussion about how we completely understand why she was like that. Because it's really, we live in a climate like that where you have to kind of be careful. Otherwise you might, deal with some consequences. And so the best answer, if you don't want to fall into the deep hole of cancellation or whatever, is no answer at all, basically. And so, and that became a discussion about everything, about culture, about how it became something inside music and comedy and obviously the internet. And we were like, okay, let's just have the most fierce take on that topic. And pissing on your PC is something that we loved sonically, first and foremost, because it just works.
Cool.
Cancel me or diss me. PC people piss me off. It's like those kind of things that you're really able to do, mostly when you're creating in a language that is not your own language. So my first language is Hebrew, and English is a language that I learned well enough to use and work with, but not well enough to lose that sensitivity that I have to its sound. It's eventually something that I hear it. I hear how it's sounding before I really understand the meaning in a weird way. And so that is a lot of the fun that we do with the language. Only after it was released did we understand how PC people is such a fragile and sensitive topic, especially in America.
Yeah.
And it really became a big debate on, the post where we posted the song. And I love it when music does that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's just like a meta song. Like the song it talks exactly about the kind of reality that it created.
I mean,
You know what I mean?
I was driving around with my wife, and we were listening to the record, and she's been a huge fan. She played the first song I heard was "End of the Road," like years ago, and she would play your record,
Yeah.
kids, and so I'm like, I was I was happy to be able to show her the new record, and we're like trading off, and so I was like playing the record, and that song comes on, she's like, what do they mean by that? I don't know about, I'm gonna read up on this. You should ask her about, I don't know about this song. And I'm like, what does that mean? What is she saying? What are they saying here? Because we're all so fucking sensitive, and we're just like, everyone's, like you said, afraid to say the wrong thing, or just like afraid to go against the grain or be offensive to anyone. So that was like, I get it, but I think, woke culture has sometimes gone a little bit too far on one end, and it's kind of, I appreciate the way you approach it. I love the line in there that Ori says, what you gonna say when you can't say anything you want to say. It's a great, also with the alliteration, with the phrasing of that.
yeah. And the crazy thing is, like, just to think about how, well, we took a risk here, right? We took a risk that our audience, that we tend to think is people who are like-minded, people who think like us, who like, the kind of same values in life. We took a risk here. Like, we said, okay, we're gonna say something that's gonna be controversial, and not just controversial, like, I don't know, like using this explicit language or saying this or that. We're going to attack the exact thing that people think protects them, from being
right.
Considered not the way that, and we just put it on ourselves in a way that was, I mean, for my team, for my manager, they were scared, but
yeah.
I just really think and believe that we can't really have, a healthy society without a very authentic exchange of ideas, even if the idea that I'm expressing at the moment is an idea that appears to be a bit extreme. It has to be expressed, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In a respectful way, in a way that takes into account that some words resonate differently with some people. All of it with the awareness that we all like to have. But at the same time, this awareness really took us to a place where you really can say anything you want to say. So what is the conversation?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely. And it's interesting that we as a society have now started to hold artists put them on such a pedestal, and like we're so quick as a society to just like, hold artists on this higher pedestal than even politicians. Like the shit that politicians get away with, artists say one wrong thing in an interview and boom, they're canceled. But like politicians can like pass laws that fuck over, a large part of their constituency
Populations.
and their populations, and they get reelected. And it's just interesting how artists, for some reason, which historically, traditionally, artists are just reflecting life, holding up a mirror to society. Just like artists are the ones that, just take all of this and filter it through and just put it back out in its art. Like it shouldn't, I don't, it's an interesting place where we've gotten to, where artists are held in such regard, where it makes, we're just so quick to cancel them, or just to hold them to this different standard.
Yeah, I totally agree. And also, I think that, well, artists is what we see so visually, but I think that we also treat each other that way, in a way where there
Mm,
is no safe space to be wrong. There's no space to be making mistakes. And I think that the whole purpose of, you know, how they sold us the internet, because I think that I'm probably one of the last, people who I grew up half with and half without internet. I'm
yep.
34. I'm like an old
Yep.
bitch, and I had the experience of internet coming into my life and social
Yeah.
media coming into my life. And, that
Right.
perspective was like, I remember that, the discussion around the internet was so much like the discussion now around AI, with all the concerns being raised. And one of the pros were, this is going to be a democracy at its best, where you can
Mm,
express your opinions freely, and have a really deep and intense debate, which, sometimes seemingly appears to be the case, but also it became so messy because of so many things, that I guess, this is where I mean, for me, I mean, at this point, I just sit back and watch it, like, and I'm like, okay, let's just see how it unfolds, because it's crazy. And that is why, a part of being the vandalist, or being
hmm
a vandalist, is to say, you know people in my country define me as extreme lefty. I was attacked for it many times, that for having those opinions, and that I don't love my country enough, et cetera, et cetera. So for the people in my
Sure.
country, I'm not. I'm too left. And for the people outside, when we released PC People, it was like, okay, she must be supporting the right. And
Right.
and for me, the vandalist is like not being any of these things, just not being boxed in any of these boxes. And especially when it's right and left, and everything is so
Right.
binary, and it's I don't want to live in that space. So I just
Mm.
choose my different ways of destroying it. And I think that's the essence of the vandalist.
No, that absolutely, and you're right. It's not just artists, and we are the walls really kind of have come down in the sense of, because of what social media has done, is where we're all on this, theoretically, this level playing field, where we're all in the same feed. We're all right here on the phones, and when you're swiping and you're scrolling, and it's like you get bombarded with the thought police. Really, it's kind of just like what we're allowed to say or to think. And then once we've kind of, like you said, we this binary situation where we're locked into, it's right versus left, or evil versus true, and truth versus untrue, or fact, and all of it is just like right and wrong. And it's just like, this is where we've landed. It's just like, what I've fallen to is right, and if you don't believe me and you don't follow what I say, then you're wrong. And then people take it so far as just like, well, actually, you're evil if we don't agree with the same thing. And then it gets dangerous. And so it's kind of, I find it interesting. It's kind of like the where the conversations that we're not having, because we're so afraid of that, and because we hear people yelling at us through our phones on our
Yeah.
feeds, of saying like, you better think this way, and if you don't, there's going to be a lot of trouble coming at you. And that's why we all have to be happy people. Where this that's a nice segue here, is like the sad generation, happy pictures. And it's kind of just like where we aren't really truly or fully expressing who we are, because of the fear. Maybe it is the fear that we might say the wrong thing, or show the wrong thing, or even if it's not as aggressive as like right versus left, right, wrong, but it's more about even just in the subcultures of your friend group or something like that. And if you show your, the emotion that doesn't resonate as much, then you might get ostracized. So I do want to ask you about the Sad Generation Happy People with Flying a Boss, and kind of where that also came from and how that collaboration came together.
Mm-hmm. So it's Sad Generation Happy Pictures, which is the pictures that we use to show. Yeah. And that is like, that sentence is a meme. It's like the most basic. I mean, it's a meme that a friend of ours sent to us, and he was like, I mean, it's a cool concept. And my first reaction to it was like, it's such a meme. I mean, it feels so, I don't know, superficial. I don't know. Yeah. And at the same time, I always have that, I think that when Ori brought the chorus of End of the Road. So that was his idea. He was like, I don't know what really, really happens at the end of the road. And for me, it felt too simple of a message. I don't know what happens at the end. Like, I was like, okay, I mean, yeah, but can we say it in a way that would, I don't know, be a bit smarter or a bit more nuanced? And then I'm just continuing to learn, and I think that it has a lot to do with everything that you just said, and in such a very precise way. Like, it is an art form nowadays to say something that is so specific and clear and in very few words that encapsulates so much meaning, and especially the meaning of what it is to be alive today. And I think that besides being bombarded with information and kind of being reluctant to express ourselves because of the consequences, there's also the other side of it, which is the use. So I think that we should be able to think very, very freely, almost think about any, like, I think that we should be able to think anything, but then our output is something to consider. Like, I think that we have a lot of, we add a lot to the hateful conversation in social media. Some of us more than others. But all of us don't have enough time to actually go deep into those things that we express ourselves about. So that's kind of like, the other side of what you just said, which is, but you're so afraid to express yourself. But at the same time, we're not careful enough. And what is it being careful? It's not the words that you use, which is the PC culture. It's how much do I really know about this? How much do I really understand? And I think that kind of ties into Sad Generation Happy Pictures, because we have so much information and so many possibilities, and our abilities are far beyond anything that our parents had, and obviously their parents before them. But because of that, we are kind of frozen, because it's a lot to take, and it's really hard to navigate. And I think that's the case, especially with Gen Z. They, like, the amount of shit that they have to handle is like something that I haven't experienced when I was in my youth. So yeah, and I guess that something that about, like, okay, I have music in my life, and it doesn't matter how shitty things are. I wake up in the morning and there's something really meaningful in my life, and it's always there for me. It's always there, no matter what is happening, and also how good or how bad I think I was. It's there for me, and I went so deep in my in how much I explored it, that it really exists in me now. And I feel like that is a part of why it is maybe talking about a sad generation, because when you don't have that thing that serves as purpose, but you have so many different things that you know little about, I feel like that maybe kind of takes out a little bit of this sense of direction in life.
Absolutely. I mean, it's all the studies have come out now that since the rise of social media, since social media became a thing, especially on the smartphones, really, just depression levels have skyrocketed. Teen depression has gone up, and everything is just like you said, the bombardment of all of this information, and we're expected to hold an opinion on every topic that we might, you can't understand all of this that's going on, but whatever's trendy, and you got to jump on the right side of the topic for your tribe or your community, or you'll be ostracized. And it's a scary place to be. And that's really tough. And I mean, you do a great job at kind of, putting that mirror up and asking those questions in these creative ways, and just kind of, the music video also for Sad Generation Happy Pictures was great, because you have all of these kids that are just like, putting on that front and those selfie angles and doing the dances and all of that. And I mean, it's, they're all smiling, but it's devastating. I'm watching this and it's like, oh God, like this is what it's come to. Like this is like, oh, this is what it is. Oh, it's rough. Like I was crying inside watching that. I was like, oh, this is it's not quite joyful. Like they're doing the happy dances, and it's like, oh man, every one of them is probably, crying inside. But yeah, it's that was done really well.
Thank you so much.
So I'm curious, just the references from in PC People.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned comedy. I mean, you drop CK Louis. Like, I'm assuming that was like in nod to kind of Louis CK getting canceled. Was this song written before the Calvin Klein FK Twigs band, like that where the ad got banned and all of that? Was that in reference to what happened with that when you referenced Calvin Klein?
I think it was I think it was after that, and I think that it was way more random than that. But I know that there is a reference. It was not to make reference of that story. That wasn't the intention. Calvin Klein, I think someone told me that it is how you call a combination between cocaine and ketamine.
I don't know that one. Okay, got it. All right.
And I was like, oh, how cool. Yeah, and it was just like really randomly added in there. And then the next thing that came to my mind was like, Calvin Klein, CK, okay, CK, Louis CK, okay, yeah, that works. It was just like one of those moments when I was like, cool, let's just throw things in there.
Cool. I'm curious about your songwriting process. How do you go about writing these songs, and has the process changed? And then kind of are you writing and producing them with Ori kind of at the same time? Do you go and write the lyrics? Do you guys write the lyrics together? How does the process work?
It's a different process between the songs. We do have like a very we have our comfort zone, which is Ori will start a beat, and then it will be improvisation. Like one of us will get on the microphone and throw whatever comes in, and the other one would do the same, and then we will kind of pick and choose the moments. And then a lot of times from the improvisation, we would find also like lyrical ideas, because it will mostly be gibberish. And then that would be like, okay, so we happen to be saying something like, easier to have fun when you're so dumb. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, okay, so this is what the song is going to be about. We're going to write a
Mm-hmm.
song about, ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
And that is kind of like how we do it a lot of the times, because it kind of became such a system that we do, and we know that works. We try to really switch it up as much as possible. So I can definitely say
Mm-hmm.
that with the Vandalist, many of the songs were created in a completely different way. And that is why I think that even more than kids, which is considered to be a very dynamic or diverse universe of songs.
Yeah.
And I think that with the Vandalists, even more so.
Yeah, definitely. I was sent kind of the track credits. I'm curious, you separate written by and composed by. And some of the songs, were written by, like Smiling Upside Down was written by you and Ori and Omer Levam, but was just composed by you and Ori. Or like I, there's different people that actually I think just Christopher James Barron was
CJ Barron.
credited as written but not composed. Yeah. Can you explain the difference between written and composed, or at least how you're kind of inferring it here?
So the way that we see it is, written would be lyrics and composed
Okay.
would be everything music. And I know that
Mhm.
this is not necessarily how people treat it, but
Yeah.
I think that it is also coming from how we treat it in Hebrew. And when our manager first went over our credit list and Off the Radar, she was like, so the song was written by all of you. And we were like,
Right.
no, but there's the lyrics and there's the music, and it needs to be separate. And she was like, okay, cool, I'm following your weird logic here. And
Yeah.
the thing with III, for instance, that was a process of, we had the entire song, the beat, the production, all the lyrics, everything besides what would come after III in the chorus, in the most important part of the song.
Sure.
And we couldn't find it. We had the melody for it, or the rhythm, or the pocket for it, but not the lyrics. And then we called our friend CJ that we wrote Come Back Home with, and he was like, say papi azúcar. I mean, it sounds like a song about, like, kind of like a sugar daddy thing. Just say it in Spanish. And he solved it for us. So he contributed
cool.
the main lyric for the song.
Sure. And then what do you mean when you say produced by? Because some would say that the creating the music, a producer is doing that, and so whoever's listed is, like, I guess in your references to composed by, that would be in some settings produced. So what do you mean by producer here?
For me, a producer is the driver. So you can have that is so Ori is the producer of the project, but he takes all the different ideas suggested by the different people who collaborate on the song, or just by me and him. And then, even if I had a very significant contribution to the production of the song, to how the structure works, to how it sounds, etc., Ori is the one who takes all of these ideas and then says 1, 2, 3, 4, sets them in an order, and makes the art of making it from a bunch of ideas into a song that sounds really fucking good. And that is why he is credited alone in the production in a lot of the songs. And then in the other songs where you have producers other than Ori, I'm also a credited producer because I am de facto producing a lot of the stuff. But where it's just me and him, I'm like, this is yours. Because eventually, even if it's me and him and CJ, or me and him and Justin, he is the producer. He eventually does so much of what makes it sound the way it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Cool. No, that's fascinating. I've never, well, I haven't seen it done that way. You know, at least in the States, you know, words and music and the who wrote the song, it's kind of everybody's just thrown into together. They don't typically separate the lyrics and the music, and then the production is always done in a certain way. And so that was all fascinating. You know, and I guess when it comes to just like the way that the publishing is broken down, or with all the, you know, the songwriting and all of that, I mean, that gets into a whole other topics, and like, you know, producers and the fact that it's kind of all in the family, and that your producer is just, it's kind of all in house, that probably makes it a lot easier than, you know, if you're outsourcing this to, you know, to a bigger producer, a different producer, someone who's going to like demand points and all of that. It's then it can get a little bit more complicated, but sure. So you have you teamed up with Neon Gold and Atlantic for this release. Tell me about kind of the decision to go with a major for this record.
The decision was not you know, it was almost kind of like we felt it was inevitable, because Kids brought us to a place with our previous label, who is still very much involved, and they're also our publishers. So City Slang is an independent label from Germany, and they have a publishing company, same owners, same people. It's called Chiuso. And that was the best place in the world to get developed as an artist, because they know how to develop an artist. So they gave us time, and they gave us artistic freedom. They gave us a lot of advice, but also a lot of trial and error. Like, they let us do our thing and do mistakes. And because the stakes are not so high, because it's not major label money, so there's a lot more freedom. And then it got to a place with Kids, with the amount of success that Kids got, that we wanted the next step to happen, and for a lot of money to come in, and a lot of connections, etc., especially in the US, where City Slang has offices, but they don't have, you know, a very strong footprint. And they gave their blessing in a way that was very noble and very beautiful. And we have a very good relationship up until today. And so we went with Atlantic / Neon Gold, thinking, well, it's Neon Gold that's going to bring in the indie vibes that we still need. We still need people who, you know, think indie. And Atlantic would be the you know, the resources, the people, the connections, and it doesn't necessarily work that way. You know, just if we're having, you know, a almost fully honest conversation, and I know that you probably know the situation with Atlantic right now, adding to it the fact that we are independent artists in our DNA. That is how we do things. Oli and I come up with the ideas for the videos, we edit them, we manage our career, we decide everything about the promotion, the marketing, everything is done in-house in the four walls of our home because we're there
Yeah.
all the time. So all the shitty ideas get thrown in the air and then we come up with the good ideas. And it's really hard to come inside that kind of atmosphere, it took we have a manager that's been with us since the very beginning in 2017. She's been such a huge force with pushing us and pushing us, but it's always about her trying to also push her way in to our so closed, tight dynamic. And so I think that trial with major labels still needs to prove itself in our situation. Like how does this big system with all its intricacies come into something that is so based on intimacy and home, and we're figuring it out as we speak.
Sure. And I'm curious how it has been working, I guess, or how it works logistically just with Neon Gold. I'm assuming they're kind of your go-tos. They're the ones that brought you in, and they just kind of can tap into Atlantic's resources like you're talking about. And yeah, just for people listening that aren't familiar, I mean, Atlantic, they laid off a bunch of people recently, and there's been a ton of restructuring, and it's just been kind of chaotic in that organization as of late. And so has that trickled down into the workings of how this rollout has been, and or is Neon Gold pretty insulated from all of that, and you just using Atlantic as like a distribution arm, and like, if you need to tap in for like radio resources or whatever?
As much as Neon Gold have been trying and would like to, and have been trying to, fill in where that chaos that you're talking about has influenced the campaign, that was not something that they were able to really fully do.
Sure.
To talk about the structure of how it works when you have like, two labels is, for me, it always seemed like they were working pretty good together. At some point, I was like, these are all Atlantic, or these are all Neon Gold. It didn't feel like there was like where they start and they, where their job ends and where they start. Everyone were very much involved, and I think that there was a lot of excitement about the project in Atlantic. So in many ways, they kind of took over territories that they were not supposed to take over. And that kind of felt like it was seamless. Right now, with the situation, as you can probably understand, I think this chaos is influencing a lot of lives, but, a lot of artists are now like, I think that half of the team that I used to work with is not there anymore.
Yeah.
Not even, I think even more. I think there's only like 2 people left from Atlantic, and we worked with 7. So it's crazy. And it impacted the rollout of the VANDALIST a lot.
Sure. Yeah.
But I have, I feel like I have, and Ori has the capacity to a certain extent to understand that, it's things are happening in the world, and the one thing that an artist has to have is adaptability. Things happen not the way you planned them, and then you regroup and you plan something different and you make it work.
Yeah. I mean, it's no, absolutely. And I mean, I guess you can be grateful for the fact that it's been you and Ori and your manager, since the beginning, and you guys you're fully capable of navigating this. And there is something to be said, as much as we've been talking about the ills of social media and all of that. We do have a direct way to connect with the fans that you don't need the permission of a label to do that. And granted, the promises of a big label, with their power and their global reach and all of that, maybe that hasn't checked all the boxes off that you were hoping for. But you have your music, you have your art, you have your collaborators, you have your fans and the community. And so, there is something there that at least, in this day and age, you can go directly to your fans and you can speak directly to them. And, you're adaptable. Like you said, that's very cool. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I just
Go ahead.
I just want to say that I think that I have the tendency to complain about social media. And I don't think that's cool, because at the same time, it is exactly what you just said. I mean, it's the one thing, like, this is my own thing. Nobody can, can sign a contract with me and take that away from me.
Right.
So I have full control. Okay. And then comes the question, do artists really have full control over their social media profiles? And that is something that I've seen a lot of debate on recently,
Really,
especially I saw James Blake talk about it. Really interesting stuff that he's saying about how these things work. It's a wild field. It's a jungle.
Right. And we're kind of getting to the point where it's, do we have the control over social media, but does anyone have the control over social media? It's honestly, the algorithm is controlling us, and it's not really that there are the gatekeepers, the people that were the previous gatekeepers. It's not like you can just go hand a radio DJ an envelope full of cash like you could back in the day. Like, there is no one to hand an envelope of cash to anymore. It's literally the algorithm, and the algorithm isn't even controlled by no one. It's funny, I sit down with people at TikTok, literally, who work at TikTok in the music division. This is what they do day in and day out. They don't have a fucking clue how it works. They're just like, well, I've seen this work and I think you should do this and you should do this, but I don't know. That also works. I'm just like, if you don't know, who's controlling this? Who knows? But humanity is we've kind of gotten past the point of no return, where humans aren't really as much in control anymore as we once were, which is a little scary to think about. But
you don't think, seriously scary? And I just heard somebody talk about it, that even the algorithm is not controlled by humans anymore. So
it's not.
So then you don't have anybody to blame, which is a problem, because we really need, when things are shitty, we have to point a finger at accountability or a blaming finger. But don't you think that resources and a lot of money can kind of get you through the algorithm?
I mean, there are people out there who charge a lot of money, who claim that they know how the algorithm works. And honestly, I've worked with a lot of these agencies that all they're doing is throwing a bunch of shit at the wall. They have a track record where sometimes they're able to influence the algorithm because, they've seen this, and this work, but the algorithm is changing on a daily basis, on a minute by minute basis. It's, learning itself. It's just there's nobody who really gets it. And I talk to label execs too all the time. I had one on the show the other day. It was if we could bottle this up, if we knew exactly how this worked, we would just use it for every artist. We would know exactly how it works. But unfortunately, nobody knows how it really works. And people are taking their best guess, their educated guesses based on the history and what has worked in the past. But what worked, a month ago isn't necessarily what's going to work today. And, some people thrive on that. Some people get really excited by, testing and the trial and error and the creativity. But it's is that an artist's job? Are we supposed to try to figure out how the algorithm works? I don't know. I'm not so sure. That is for the suits, but yeah. So speaking of your social media, I mean, you posted a couple days ago, thank you to the collaborators on the VANDALIST, and you posted a bit of the hate that you got from the comments, that were at least people were writing, on Flying to Bosses and Robbie Williams socials and all of that. I'm curious, just like as an Israeli artist, how has that been received, and just like what have you experienced, and how are people just reacting who maybe don't even know you, but just the fact that you're Israeli in this era right now?
Yeah. Um, it's it's a big one. Just to
Yeah,
be fully honest, it's a big one, and a very, I'm still very much trying to figure this all out myself.
sure.
The thing is, I'm right now in a position that I don't see anybody else in, and I don't really know if I can compare it to anything that I've seen before. Which is, I'm basically the only artist from Israel who's successful internationally and is proudly from Israel. I know other
Sure.
artists who are from Israel and don't bother mentioning it, and that's an advice that I got before, but was impossible for me to keep outside of the conversation, because a
Sure.
lot of my art is about, growing up in a place like Israel. It's about war and justice and all of those things that preoccupies my thinking and therefore goes into my art. And so I think that this position kind of brought me to see two things happen parallelly. One of them is that a few days or a few weeks right after October 7th and into, this war that we're seeing right now, I started posting and using my platform to help support, families in Israel who were dealing with missing family members, and helping people whose families of hostages, and getting supplies. It was a situation of like an entire month of getting the emergency to function, and we all did it.
Mhm.
And that was the month when I lost so many followers, to the point that it got to like 1,000 a day. And my management, like my team, and also the label, everyone were like, okay, like, I mean, well, one, first of all, you're fucked. And two, maybe you should do something different. But at that time, it was like, how can I not use my platform to help my brothers and sisters, my family? Like that was not about that at all. I was like, fuck my
Yeah.
career. Like, people are in need right now. At some point, it became way more complex than that. And then very slowly, I started to not engage in that as much. But then I noticed how it just continues to drop and drop and drop. And I saw it on my Instagram, on my Spotify, everywhere. And I was like, okay, this is something that I have to wait out. Just wait a little bit, see if the conversation changes, see if I can, um, I don't know, if I can do anything to help it. But as of now, I'm just dealing with a war that is happening around me, with running to shelter, those things, and not my career as much. At some point, it just became more and more clear to me that I've lost the first, you know, I don't know, 20,000 people or 30,000 people. And that there's nothing I can do to even, convince people like that I'm an artist and I come from this place, and it doesn't have to necessarily mean anything about me. And then I started to notice the phenomenon of people being explicitly vocal about, um, you know, saying to Robbie Williams, to Flyana, like, why are you collaborating with them? And stuff like that. And well, the messages that I got on my DM were awful, like seriously awful shit coming from people who used to listen to my music, and it was like, I was your fan, but now because you don't do this and that, and because you come from Israel, I'm just going to stop listening to your music. And it is devastating, for an artist to think that it doesn't even matter who you are and what you've expressed before. And it doesn't even matter that you're inside the shittiest situation of your entire life, where you've lost people and that war is happening around you, to actually have people say, I'm not going to listen to your music anymore because you're a part of that. And so it was just like really heavy on me mentally. And then eventually it just became so that I was like, I have to get into the vandalist mode. I wrote an album called The Vandalist. I'm going to release it. I have to get into the mode of like, the game right now plays by rules that I cannot follow. So I just have to not follow those rules. And what I found was a new approach to everything, which was like, fuck you, fuck everybody. Like, if you want to talk shit about me and have all my, comment sections be about Israel and Palestine and etc., just, do your thing, whatever. Yeah. And that kind of lifted me up out of my, very fragile situation. And then happened a miracle, an internet miracle, that around March, after we've lost, I think probably like 60 or 70,000 people on our followers, and our Spotify was just crashing and crashing. A video of ours from 4 years ago, performing Views acoustic Against the Machine, became viral in a way that we've never seen before. It kind of exploded simultaneously in 2 or 3 different pages that are about acoustic music. And we've doubled and I think tripled our followers since, and everything just whoosh, kind of, shifted. And then the first thing that I wanted to see was like, do they know where I'm from? These people, all these new people. So we checked how many people checked my Wikipedia, which says Noga Erez is an Israeli artist, like the first thing that I'm described by. And so many people went to my Wikipedia and saw that I was from Israel. And, it kind of brought me, after such a hopeless time of feeling like I don't even understand the world that I live in anymore, to come back and see how the majority, the silent majority of people, are people that when they love a musician, when they love music, they just love the music. And then they discover it online, and then they go and they stream the fuck out of it because they love it. And that, it really doesn't matter. You can be an artist from Russia, and everything that happens in Russia doesn't have to influence that. It doesn't happen on your behalf. And so many different examples. But, that was a very big spark of hope to me, not just about my career, but about humans, about why we do things, why do we listen to music? Why is this still something that I want to continue to do? So all these really very crappy experiences and ended up being, new affirmations to why I'm making music.
Well, thank you for sharing all that. I'm so sorry that you've had to go through all of that. It's awful. And the fact that, bringing it back to social media, the fact that people can get straight to you, and that anyone, anywhere, can send a hateful, hurtful, disgusting message right to your pocket. I mean, it's wild. And You definitely don't deserve that. But you know, it's I
Thank you.
guess we can just take solace in that it's coming from a place of complete ignorance. And but it is nice that yeah, it reaffirmed your love and appreciation in music, and know that we have that, and that it really can be a unifying force. And it kind of maybe took going through this experience to just reset a little bit and flush out some of those that aren't as um, don't really align with these values that you have, and the humanity that you practice, and now you found a hopefully stronger this new community, and of people who, yes, they went to your Wikipedia, yes, they know you're Israeli, and they love you for it, and they understand that from where you live and where you were born and where you grew up, it doesn't have to define every aspect of your being, that the government doesn't determine who you are as an individual. And I think that everyone hopefully will get that and understand that eventually. And for those that can't, fuck them. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very, positive note, to sum it up. And I think that eventually we still have a lot of a long way to go,
Yeah.
because it's not, so this is the most direct way for me to describe what has happened to me as an Israeli. But the amount of things that were supposed to happen, festivals that I was supposed to play, TV shows, everything that has to do with not individual people, but associations, corporations, etc. People
Yeah.
who don't necessarily need the type of thing that it means to be associated with me. That is still very much happening, and a big part of why I'm kind of able to speak about it now with you is the fact that I just think that there will come a point where I would need to voice it up. I still have to process it myself. Like, what is it, to be an artist that gets, booked to all these crazy things that I had lined up. And then all of a sudden things just don't happen and don't happen and don't happen. It's never because I'm from Israel. There's always something else, but
Right.
it's so consistent, and it's been consistent for the past almost year, that I just, there will be a time after I process this experience that I would be able to say something meaningful and smart and maybe positive about that. But I'm still not quite there.
It's yeah. It will. I mean, yeah. I hope, and I am sending it out, that that this too shall pass. And it's this has been a horrific year all around for so many, and just to hear how the residual effects and just how all of this has culminated into corporations or individuals or anyone just being afraid to engage in any way, and so they just like take a step back and be like, you know what, it's just better if we just keep it down the center, and just avoid any form of perceived controversy. And apparently your existence is controversial in some of these stages.
Yeah,
which is fucking wild. Well, Noga, thank you so much for being so open about it, and all of this will hopefully pass, and you will start to receive the truest form of appreciation for your art that you deserve. And you did make a brilliant record, and it's bringing a lot of enjoyment and hope and encouragement and just straight up fun to a lot of people, I think, that need it. And so, at the end of the day, you have that, and you have your art, and you have the music and your community. And it's important.
For sure. No, I have so much more than that. Like I live a very, very, very blessed life. It's important to say, and by all means, am I not the victim of this situation? Sure. It's just like the very specific angle that we are discussing right now, that we can see how it influences. And I think that seriously, at the end of the day, it's good over here. It's good over here. And it's just like a very interesting and wild time to be alive.
Definitely. Well, Noga, thank you so much for chatting with me. I have one final question that I ask everyone who comes on the show, and that is, what does it mean to you to make it in the new music business?
I think I will feel like I made it when I have all the means to continue to do exactly what I'm doing, when I'm not dependent on anything and anybody. So yeah.
Noga Erez, thank you so much. It's great.
Thank you, Ari.
Today's episode was edited by Ari Davids, with music by Grassroots District, and produced by all the great people at Ari's Take.